Good afternoon sa lahat ng nandito. This will be the talk on comic crossing media platforms. Okay, so I'll introduce our two speakers for today. Paolo Herras, as a writer, he traces his roots to the Philippine High School for the Arts, where he majored in creative writing. He is a fellow of the 33rd UP National Writers Workshop and the 11th Wikileaks Script Writing Workshop, where he started writing for film and television. He continued pursuing his craft as a copywriter until he became a creative director for a top advertising agency. Paolo is now the managing director of Komikon, the Filipino comics market, and Meganon Comics, an indie publishing house. His graphic novel, Buhay Habang Buhay with Tepay, is currently being adapted into film as an official selection for the 2016 Cine Filipino Film Festival. This is Paolo Herras. And our second guest is Mr. Carlo Vergara. Carlo Vergara's comic strips were first published in 1988, when he was part of the art staff for the official student paper of De La Salle University. In the 1990s, he did illustrations for the comic books Flashpoint, Horus, and Avatar, all written by David Ontiveros, while working full-time in the corporate world and moonlighting as a stage actor. Naks, bakit? After his first solo work, One Night in Purgatory, in 2001, he earned wide recognition with the release of the graphic novel Jaja Zaturna, which became a stage musical and a feature film back in 2006, and earned him his first National Book Award and an Urian Film nomination. In the early 2000s, his illustrations have appeared in 4 graphic classics anthologies published by Eureka Productions. He then ventured into playwriting, scoring a hit in 2015 with the acclaimed production Kung Paano Ako Naging Leading Lady, the musical. He is currently working on Naks, sequel to graphic novel Jaja Zaturna. Yes. Mr. Carlo Vergara. Okay, so since walang presentations ang ating mga guests, this will be a freewheeling conversation, Q&A. So I guess one of the first things I will ask is, how can you say is a comic good enough to be adapted into a play, movie, or animation? Do you know beforehand when you write it that, are you targeting being adapted across other media platforms, or are you just focused on the graphic medium? Tinginan muna sila.
Mas matanda mo. At syempre dito kami sa gilid, di ba?
Dito kayo sa gitna.
Minsan daw. Ay, ako, ikaw yung may shooting. Hello everyone. To answer the question lang, yung nangyari kasi sa akin, who among you are comic creators ba? So, ikaw comic creator ka. O kung magkano siya. Kasi, nung, this entire thing about cross-media adaptation. When I did Jaja, walang ganon. There was nothing of the sort. And then it was in 2004, 2005, na kinontak ako ng the first company that contacted me was Star Cinema. Wow. And then after that was Regal. And then Viva Films. And then nung nagpo-produce na, nung underway na yung movie, MZ. Yun, so yeah, you can bossing. Yun, so I wonder what that would look like. Pero yun, so it was totally unplanned. Ang nangyari, it was actually the Tanghalang Pilipino, the theater company, who contacted me first before Star Cinema. So and it was one of those stories na way back when was considered viral. Kasi nagsimula kasi siya independent, out of my own pocket. It was only available in 3 comic book shops, specifically Comic Quest, yung the SM North, Mega Mall, at saka Festival Alabama. Yun. And then, I think so people were already telling me na it was, they have to make it to a movie, ganyan, but then back then it was so inconceivable. And then, Rui de Vera released his review in The Inquirer.
He was here yesterday, so
Okay.
maabot siya mga 5 in the afternoon.
Okay. Ayun, thanks to him. Nung lumabas siya, yung review na yan on March of 2002. biglang dumami ang bakla sa Comic West. Yung ganon, sinabi ng may-ari, I've never seen so many homosexuals in my life. Tapos yan, every week nagre-replenish na ako, nagre-replenish ng stocks, ganyan. And parang, and then what people were telling me, I spent a lot of years trying to analyze what made it work. Parang, why?
Yeah.
Siguro I spent like 5 years trying to take it apart and see what was going on. And for me, it was a simple. The plot was very simple. You just had the ordinary person who was bestowed with extraordinary powers, placed in an extraordinary situation. You had the best friend, you had the love interest, you had the aliens from outer space, you had the typical battle, you have the little friction with the love interest, you have the best friend almost dying, and ganyan, and then and then you have the happy ending. So in a way, when you look at it, it is the classic formula. It's like what they say about Aldab. It is the classic formula repackaged for a new time. And siguro nga, it was also the right kind of, it was the right concept at the right time. Na there was no other story there that tackled homosexuality in the Philippines in that manner. Ganyan. Pulling references from both Philippine pop culture and geek culture. Yung ganyan. So parang it was this weird mix of things. Ganyan. Ngayon, so once I had that conclusion na it was siguro you could say that it was a classical way of telling stories. Yung parang I tried to see if I could do it again. I could not do it again with the sequel because parang yun nga parang nakakapagod mag-isip ng kabaklaan. Sa totoo lang, nakakapagod siya. Yung ganon. So I didn't do it with the sequel. I tried to do it with another story kung paano ko naging leading lady, which is essentially the story of a maid of a superhero team. And you have the sister who is like the opposite of the maid. Kung si maid ang responsible, si sister ang irresponsible. You have the love interest who is the English-spoken superhero, falls in love with the maid. So diba, it's one of those stories again na you have that impossible love, pero pwede, aspirational, diba? Parang we want that, ganon. And then you have the supervillains naman who want to conquer the superheroes, and then everything gets tangled up again. So yun, so I did that story and I presented it sa Virgin Lab Fest. So it was a one-act play. So I did it as an entry because I wanted to test myself. Kung kaya ko nga magsulat because I was stricken by a severe case of imposter syndrome. Na parang after Jaja, parang maybe I'm just it was a fluke. Yung ganon. Diba yung one-hit wonder ganon. Actually, may nagsabi na sa akin, kamusta pa na Carlo the one-hit wonder, ganyan. So ako, pero yun, kaibigan ko siya, so okay lang. Pero yun so I tested myself lang na parang can I write a story that, parang try something else. So I did kung paano ko naging leading lady as a one-act play. And then, after the play, abay may lumapit na naman. Sinabi, can we make a full-blown musical out of it? So, parang, maybe that's it. Maybe I wouldn't say that it's an exact formula for getting people interested. Pero yun nga, I've always told myself na for an audience, they always want something of the same, but something that's not the same. Diba? You give them what they want in a way that they haven't seen before, and that's more or less the mode that I've been using when I make my stories. Yung ganon. Because whether we care to admit it or not, if we want a romance, gusto natin kiligin. If we want science fiction, we want those elements of science fiction that If we want horror, kailangan matakot tayo. Kung gusto natin ng suspense thriller, kailangan masuspense thriller tayo. Ganyan. So, whatever genre you choose, an audience is always looking for something. Our job ngayon as a writer is parang, okay, if this is what you want to see, paano ko siya babaliin? And in the theater world, that's the term that I always hear. Paano mo siya babaliin? Kailangan baliin mo lang siya ng baliin, ganyan. But you keep it the same. Yung ganon. So, yun lang po.
Paolo.
So the question is,
how do you know that the comic is good enough to be adapted to other mediums from the graphic medium?
Okay, so when I was into comics yet, uh, when when I was writing for film, and even before I was writing for film, they would their the classes and the workshops that I was taking was saying that there are big ideas, there are small ideas, and that was true at that time. So the times have been changing. I think twice. The trends have been changing. Right now, you have viral videos that you can do. I've seen commodity game done as a viral video, or well, let me change the term, as a digital video. So you can, and then in 2005, suddenly um, everybody who just had a digital camera could become a director. So everybody who had a story to tell that had a little bit of money could become a director. So, but during the 90s, when I was still in college and I was working my way to get into the film and TV industry, the definition of ideas that could get produced as a TV show or as a film is that it has to be a big idea, and that's vague. It has to be a big idea. It has to be a big idea that is worthy of the big screen, rather than the TV screen, which is smaller. So it's all emotional. It's all about relationships, right? But even in the early 2000s, it started to change. With Pangako Sa'yo, it suddenly had these big, majestic, big idea stories that were now fit into TV, and that's because the bread and butter was TV for the entertainment industry. So going back to looking at that trend, that big ideas for big screen, small ideas for small screen, and then anybody and everybody can pick up a cam and become a director, or pick up a pen tab and become a comics creator. And now, you just have an iPhone 6 camera and you could end up in Sundance. So there's really no definition of what is worthy. But if it goes back to a good idea, let's say I go back to the big idea, it has that gut feel of that it's such a big idea that anybody and everybody wants to watch or read. And for comic books, the this is proper to say, but the comic books that really get picked up a lot, other than the fans that say, I'm a Carlo Vergara fan, so I'm leading lady because I love Shasha. Other than that. But those that, if you go to the Komikons or any comics events, and you pick up a title because it interests you, and if a lot of people are interested in that, then there's something there, there's a big idea there. And when Megalon was going around events this year, and we carried other titles other than our own, but there were some titles that are easily picked up by total strangers. For example, Rodsky Witotsky, we were selling the book for Jerry, and our pitch line, it all goes back to the idea, or the pitch line. So the pitch line was, there's this genius baby who grows up into a young, intelligent lady, and falls in love. Yes, and falls in love for the first time and loses brain cells.
Yeah.
So every time we say the pitch line, people would laugh and get interested and get the book. Because honestly, it's one of the best-selling titles that we carry when we go around. So when you talk about Guapo Man, ang action hero na hindi talaga guwapo, mayabang lang. So everybody was laughing, oh, may kilala akong ganyan, bibigyan mo yun. It's easy to sell. So that's where the big difference is creators create. Some creators just create because they want to create and tell their story. And I think 90, if not 100%, in comics events are like that. We just want to tell our story and hopefully somebody will pick it up and read it. But if it's an idea that has that gravity, that people gravitate towards, then that is the one that is the sellability. So if there's a sellability, then it'll garner a producer, like kung paano ako naging leading lady, because it's something that people can sell. At the end of the day, it's still a business. At the end of the day, even Visprint chooses titles most often that can sell, unless they already groomed the author that whatever the author's releases, it sells. And I've seen the magic of Whisprint. I mean, so, you were part of Whisprint. So there is no formula. There is a formula for storytelling narratives, but there's no formula for a success because I think ang mascot ni McCoy was made into a short film.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're gonna do a film, it's plot-driven or character-driven. There's some templates, some narrative requirements, like the three-act play, three-act structure. So it really depends. Really depends. There are templates, there are narratives that really gravitate towards that sellability. But at the end of the day, any creator can just make his comic into an animation, or make his comic into a short film or a digital video and release it, and it will get picked up.
I have a question to qualify lang the discussion. Are we talking about cross-media na yung the independent DIY thing, or are we talking about cross-media from comics to something that's conceivably bigger?
Conceivably big.
It's okay.
Yeah. Because, you know, the way you look at it now, this has been done for decades sa Pilipinas, di ba? Ina-adapt mga gawa ni Mars Ravelo, Carlo J. Caparas. But it's been so long since something was done successfully that it's unique now na nangyayari nga sa inyo. Your comics are being adapted for these other media. When you create them at the very start, do you have casting in mind already? I mean, ikaw may Jaja Padilla element agad. But ikaw,
actually, no. What happened with me and with Buhay Mahabang Buhay was that
kasi mukhang hapon ang gawa ni Tepa eh.
well, it was originally a screenplay turned into a graphic novel. So when it was a screenplay and then it was the first drawings are being done by Tepay, and then I told her, Tepay, it's so boring. I mean, there's nothing, because I hear it, once you do a supernatural ghost story, and then you see it, and then you look for that supernatural element. So, and when you're thinking from an indie film perspective, you don't have a budget. So, that's also the big factor. So, the advantage of having it done into a graphic novel was to see the story works. Because at some point, even as a writer, you don't know if this idea can be pulled off once it's done. That's why you have a lot of films that when you watch it, parang may problema with the story because sometimes it's not seen unless it's seen visually.
Yeah.
So that's the appeal. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Patay Ko Patay is because Direct Mike Alcazaran is part of it. Maybe it's being groomed to be a film.
Yeah.
So it's also to see the story, if there are any story problems or even the visual treatment is already there. So
Parang storyboard na kasi yung elements.
in Buhay Habang Buhay, the lead heroine was really patterned after Sandy Andalong because she is my favorite. She's my favorite actress from film Moral, and of course, Tepe has a signature style, and we talked about it. Like she asked me, do I expect her for it to look like Sandy Andalong? And then I said, no, it's okay as long as it embodies the spirit of the character that is being portrayed, and I'm fine. So that's how it started. And then Tepa is fond of facial hair, so the husband has a beard. So I mean, there are things that grew along the way. Well, it was supposed to be Joel Torre, Sandy Joel Torre. So that's why Sandy Joel. The child is named Christopher, so for Christopher De Leon then. So it's just the idea started about when I was in a dead-end job or a dead-end life. To me, because I was in advertising and it was a creative position, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do. I mean, I was grateful for the job and the learnings in advertising is something that isn't taught in school. So it's like an advanced learning class. And but at some point, if you work on a storyboard for 9 months from concept to production, you kind of feel at some point fed up of that one storyboard. Of course, it's not just one storyboard, but it's like your life isn't progressing. So that's why Tapay and I, even when we were in advertising, we were still releasing our comics.
Yeah.
Like what we do is after 6:30, if we don't have OT, we'd go to a coffee shop or we'd eat dinner and then we'd write and draw together. Of course, I can't draw. I will be the one that's write. And that's how we were able to make it to the previous Komikons. So I think I digressed from the question.
No, but yeah, it's still good.
Maybe right now your cast is, if we may know.
The cast is Isa Calzado as Sandy because it had to be
Sandy qualities right now.
and then it had to be a younger set because the story grew older. It started 2011. The graphic novel came in 2013, but also from the first concept up to today, parang tumanda yung actors. But Meryl Soriano was really part of the. I mean, to me, kasi she's by everything that I write, she's the one who pops in my head. Especially like it's either her or Yula also. So when I write, yes, sometimes I think of the actors first because for film you're limited and you're limited and also restricted to who's available.
Right.
So even with the casting, we had a difficult time with casting the guy because of course it had to be a fit for Isa, it had to be a fit for the role, and we just ended up with no one until we met Jake Macapagal, and it was a fit. So as long as it was a fit.
Okay. So obviously, you seem to be both heavily involved in the translation or the adaptations from comics into these other mediums. Am I correct in that assumption that you get final say as far as casting?
Okay, with Jaja the movie, no, okay, with the musical, I had absolutely no say.
Oh, okay.
Ang nangyari, I just attended one rehearsal and that was it. Yung parang nalaman ko na lang, si yun na pala. Yung gano'n. Yun, so I had no idea who, pero back then, since nagaling ako sa teatro, parang mas kampante ako sa yung how theater would adapt material. Kasi yung parang, in a way, they're after profit, but it's like, for them, it's that whole balancing act. They'd rather do the art than worry about the money.
Hindi exactly sell out in the day.
Oh, yung ganon. So anyway, that's what I felt about theater.
Any questions from the audience?
Yeah. You said your comic first was originally a screenplay.
Yes.
And then, Carl, for Leading Lady, was it also originally a play or was it?
It was a one-act play.
When you translate it to comics, is there any adjustment you make? And then, when it gets thrown back into the new medium, are there any other adjustments you also make?
Yes, kasi when I was still writing the screenplay, the first title was Sa Kabilang Buhay. Because it was all about searching for life after death. The new life, searching for new life. Hello. And the heroine was just a white lady. So when Tapay started drawing the first few sketches, and then we sat down and talked, and I said, Tapay, it's so boring because there's nothing. No, the story, not the drawings. Kasi Tapay, they have a system already, which we learned in advertising. That's why we're able to manage each other's expectations and also to keep the good relationship. So, or keep the relationship good. And that was the first improvement. So I go, nako, if this is going to be thrown out into comics events, what's the difference between this ghost story and the other ghost stories out there? Because it's just a devoted housewife who accidentally dies. So parang, that's the most boring character in the world, the housewife. So that's where the idea came that the white lady, black lady, that the concept of the ghost turned out to be an emotional state. So when she's angry, when she's depressed, she's dark, she's a black lady. And when she's happy, when she does good or does acts of goodness. She's a white lady. So that's the whole. That's what grew from it, because from the script to the initial pencils, hindi naman inks pero pencils. Dun yung parang Tepay, parang it's so boring. So I think we have to take a step back and let me just fix the story to make it more interesting for the visual medium. And that's how things started to grow, and then the title was changed to Buhay Habang Buhay, which was more snappier than Sa Kabilang Buhay. And, or Sa Kabilang Buhay.
It's not a bad title.
Yeah, well, thank you. But, yun, so that's how it started. And then, of course, Tepa has other projects then. So we were able to release one chapter in Komikon of summer, I think, or November, and then the summer, and then the comic of last Easter we released the second chapter. Oh, but when it was now translated into film, there will still be changes because of course you're limited to a very small budget.
Right.
But we're happy with the casting. We're very happy with the casting. It's just that, of course, the visual effects are very limited, and it's a very ambitious story, which I am feeling right now. So I just have to also accept that there are things that aren't translatable into film either from the comics to, and vice versa.
That's a very interesting point. There are some things that can't be translated into film. For me naman, with Leading Lady, so I started writing it as a one-act play. And as a writer, I'm more dialogue-driven. Mas mahilig ko sa dialogue. And in a way, siguro subconsciously, that came from, when I was a theater actor, yung gusto ko, kailangan meron akong parating sasabihin on stage yung gano'n. Yung parang ayoko yung feeling na tayo lang doon.
Extra lang.
Di ba yung extra lang ganyan. So parang nagkaroon ako ng this responsibility na when I write a script, I want the actors to say something all the time. Ganyan. And then so when I submitted the script, natanggap yun, when we were rehearsing, Director Chris Martinez was saying, ang haba ng play mo, pakikat, ganyan. So I had to cut dialogue, ganyan, okay, fine. And then, so pagdating sa comic book, I had to cut again. Kasi yun nga, madaldal siya, ganyan, and I only had 170 pages to work with. Nung pagdating ng full-length musical naman, which I had to write again, so I had to expand the story of the one-act play and to make it into a two-act thing, I overwrote again. So,
did you write the music also?
No. So what I did was, at certain points in the script, naka-indicate na noon, this is where song comes in, this is the context of the song, this is the mood of the song, and then musical director Vince Jesus would do what is magic na.
Right.
So ideally, a musical script of a decent length would be around 80 pages. I wrote 130 pages as my original. So when we had our first reading, again, pinagalitan ako ni Direk Chris. I-cut mo yung anong haba-haba ganyan. So well, ideally it's supposed to be 70 pages. Kasi with 80 pages, talking about a 3-hour musical. And one person commented, ano yan, Les Miserables? 3-hour musical, ganun. So, but then, from 130 plus pages, I could only bring it down to 80.
Yeah.
Sabi ko lang kay Direk Chris, hindi ko na talaga kaya, ganyan. And so we worked with that. And of course, when it comes to a collaboration, you come to that point na, okay, I'm the writer, I created this, but then there's that part na you really have to let go talaga because it is the director's ballgame na yung merong decisions yung director na sa loob mo na parang hindi dapat ganun, ganyan. And then may part sa'yo, I'm the creator, I should be the one who ganyan.
Yeah.
Pero no, ganyan. So it is like, you pass it on to the director will clarify points about what your intention is, pero ultimately, it's his. Kasi ultimately, pangalan niya ang kahit na maganda ang, kumbaga, kahit na pangit ang script, or kahit na maganda ang script, pangit ang direksyon, yun nga, it's not the screenwriter, it's not the writer's fault. It will always be the director. Di ba? Conversely, if kung pangit ng script pero ang ganda ng labas ng pelikula, wala rin, it's still the director's thing. So kumbaga, everything boils down to the director. Ganun. So ibigay na yun.
Any other questions?
Sige, yung iba muna.
Sige.
So, jumping between mediums, what do you feel, since you're translating one story from another medium, what do you feel is essential that has to be kept, that cannot be lost in translation within your own? I mean, it may be different, it may not be like the same.
Two things. When I was saying the big idea, that's also the concept, right? So the concept is your pitch line. It's your 2 to 3 sentence or your one-liner about the concept. Because at the end of the day, when you get lost, that's your anchor. So that's one. Second, the message. What is it that you want to say? Because of course, whether consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, when you create something and you put it out there for the world to see and read, it's because you want to say something. No matter, even without words, or even if it's a novel full of words, it boils down to the message. Because as what Carlo was saying earlier was that, there are templates, there are narrative, there are techniques that are all the same. Like your Aldab is like your new Romeo and Juliet, and how many Romeo and Juliet movies and stories have we all heard? But the message changes, the relevance changes, the style changes, and that's where the author or the creator comes in. What do you have to say about love? And that's the point of like when I read all of these love stories, what the love stories that or the horror stories, or what do you have to say that's different or that's fresh or that's new about all of these concepts or these ideas? Because again, there will be so many other people who have done it first, and so many the whole idea is that there's nothing original anymore in this world. All of the stories that could have been told have already been told by the masters. So what is it that you can say that's new, that's fresh about your concept? Yun.
Yun. Yun. Ikaw na sinabi niya, yun. Really, it's intent. Di ba? It all boils down to intent. It all boils down to vision. Although I will say na when I did the Jaja graphic novel, in terms of intent, my intent was really to it was me articulating the idea na we have no control over our fate. We have no control over destiny. It is our job just to respond to it in the most responsible way possible. Yon, that was my intent. Hindi siya lumabas sa play, hindi siya lumabas sa movie. Yon. Pero apart from that, everything else was there naman. So yung sabi, the high concept, the art, nandiyan. So yon. Pero
were you disappointed that didn't come out? That wasn't able to manifest itself in the other mediums?
Was I disappointed? Hindi siguro at that point in time, since it has been a while since a comic book was actually adapted. Parang sa akin, parang sige, parang meron. Parang at least for me, it was a chance for me to see that things were possible for comics again.
Yeah.
Yung ganon.
Yeah, kasi parang breaking new ground nga, parang ground that nobody had touched in decades. Parang na-adapt na lang kasi ng comics into other mediums or mga telenovela style. Mga pangwakasan.
And then you have the usual suspects, your Darna, Captain
Marvel, decades ago na kasi old concepts. Question?
Yeah, did you experience something that yung, kunwari, yun nga, may nag-offer na producer sa inyo, and then you suddenly feel like, huwag na lang kasi baka iba yung mag-turn out or something.
Kasi ngayon, yan ang nararanasan ngayon ng recipe. Madami silang tinatanggihan talaga.
Okay, kasi ako naman, I was approached by 3 other parties. This is apart from the ones that I mentioned a while ago.
Yes.
I was approached by 3 other parties. Kaya lang, in a way, it was more gut than anything yung sa akin. Na parang like for, okay, just to ano. One was for a television series. This was in the mid-2000s.
Okay.
This was way before My Husband's Lover. Diba? Yung ganon. And it was during a time when I felt that the material was not yet ready for TV, or TV was not yet ready for the material because of the landscape that was going on. So that's one aspect of it. The other one naman, it was about naman the fee. Yes, meron din ganon. Yung isa naman was the vision. Yan, so hindi rin ako pumayag. So meron din ganong mga variations na ganda.
Well, with the indie film, since I'm the writer of the story and I'm the director of the film, so if it fails, it's my fault, and I will take full responsibility for that. But the thing is, in reality, ideas can't be copyrighted. The final product can, but because it can't be copyrighted and creativity is cheap here in the Philippines, it's not that priced. That's why our comic books are what, 50 pesos, 70 pesos, diba? And still the value hasn't grown yet to an ideal scenario pa. I mean, it's still a long way.
Yes.
I mean, compared to other art markets, like Art in the Park, but of course paintings yun. But we're relatively cheaper.
Yes.
Our stuff are relatively cheaper.
Dami nga ashcats, hindi nila binibigay.
Even if you look at the art events of Ilusionary na Kabataan, they know how to price themselves already, and they're not that as expensive as the ano pa. So wait, why am I saying this? Can we go back to what is the question?
No question, sir. Next question.
Kumbaga ano yung main kumbaga nag-touch ba sa isip niyo yung kumbaga wag na lang.
Okay.
Then it goes back to if it's shady, because there are shady producers. It's again, that's the reason why I went to creativity is cheap, because anybody can come up with, like Plastic Man was may ibang nag-copy ng everything is so easily
fantastic, man.
Everything is so easily copied here in the Philippines. We're one of the national capital places of piracy.
Copyright infringement.
And even our copyright law is very vague.
Yes.
It's very vague. That's why if you are going to have it purchased by a producer, then you have to be willing to let go as the creator. Because once the producer buys it, they bought it. And it's either you hope for the best and you partner with people that you respect, but that opportunity is still not there yet, because again, how many films, like for 200 pesos, what will you watch a movie? Diba? That's what the producer's thinking. How many tickets does he have to sell to earn back a movie? Diba? So unlike the indie films, at least the creators or the authors still own the film if it's Cinemalaya, or if not, like in Buhay Habang Buhay, the film will be owned by Cine Filipino. Pinag-usapan namin yung Tepay na, Tepay, if this is done into a movie, they don't own the graphic novel, but at least, but they own the film. So ganon, it has to be someone you trust. And if you have and if that person isn't trustworthy, or if your gut feel is saying that it's not a good match between you, then it's up to you. It's if it's shady, it's shady. You'll know naman.
Okay. Any other questions?
For me, what's your ideal level of collaboration in the adaptation? Like, if we adapt another comic for you, kailangan ba ikaw din ba yung writer and or director? And then for Carlo, what's your, in an ideal scenario, what level of involvement do you have to be in the adaptation?
what level? Kasi with the Jaja adaptation, the film, I purposefully said na pwede ba akong makihalo dun sa pagsusulat ng screenplay. Because number one, I've never written a screenplay before then and I wanted to try it out.
Okay.
Secondly, parang nandun din yung parang, yeah, you want your galamais in there, you know, just a bit, ganyan. Kasi it depends like with the musical naman, with the musical when I went through that process of coming up with a entirely new story for that, parang because of the thing is when you're writing, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're writing kasi for something na super collaborative, kasi at least pag comics, you can write it, ang kalaban mo lang naman yung bilis at saka sipag ng artist. Pero yun nga, yung pag pelikula or teatro, ang kalaban mo parang type ba ng director, type ba ng producer, kaya ba ng budget yan, may artista bang pwede dyan, ano yung schedule ng artista na yan, pwede ba siyang sa rehearsal, kaya ba niyang umarte, may gano'n and all of that, di ba? All of these factors coming in. Ganyan. So after leading lady, after going through that whole process, tinanong sa akin ng producer, gusto mo next project na tayo? Sabi ko, teka lang, mukhang sa comics lang muna ako. Kasi nakakapagod. But then it is a special experience. Because what that collaborative effort does, for me as a writer, it gives me ngayon perspectives on what other people are thinking about when it comes to story. So like for example, pag nag-rehearse kami, and I'm sure you experienced this before, yung may lalapit sa yung artista, tapos magtatanong, ano yung motivation ko sa eksenang ito? Or bakit ko sasabihin ito? Ganyan. So meron silang ganun, which helps you as a writer naman. Because it puts you in that position na, okay, if yung parang baka hindi klaro sa teksto yung motivation ng character, hindi klaro sa teksto yung why a character says something, yung ganyan. And then of course, there will be the director who will say, don't overthink it. Di ba yung mga ganun?
But you appreciate that more, diba? Kasi parang, parang gusto nila talaga malaman yung iniisip nyo in the first place para sa mga character.
Exactly. And then, so what happens there is, in your next project, when you're writing something new, now you have that perspective now na parang, is this line, I like this line that I wrote, but is it really a line that can be understood?
Okay.
Yung ganun, sometimes we can fall in love with the lines that we write without considering na parang you overestimate the value that you've put into the ganyan, when actually parang parang bigay hilig mo lang. And then eventually, hindi pala nagigets ng tao, yung gano'n. So
yun ang pakinggan.
Yeah. So there are those things naman.
I think what's common with all creatives, despite whatever creative industry they're in, is that every creative wants authorship. So if a producer comes in and will give you a whole amount of cash to buy the rights, which is the authorship, then you have to be prepared to let go of that creative godlike feature that you have as a creator. So that has to be the level of acceptance and openness if you're going to start working with a producer or collaborating with let's say a TV show, because they will, especially in the Philippines, everybody thinks they're a creative, diba? So everybody thinks they have a better idea. Everybody thinks they're better. I mean, sometimes they are. Sometimes in every collaboration, you don't have all of the answers. So once you invite someone into your work, whether or not it's paid or it's collaborative, you have to be open to collaboration. So you have to be open to sharing that authorship. In film, it's usually the director. In at least in literature and comics, at least it's co-authorship, diba? So yun.
Any other questions from our audience?
Sige na, ask na.
Yun na.
in average, how long did it take yung transition from, transition from comics to play to movie, parang ganun?
In my case, mabilisan. Kasi for Jaja, hinahabol nila yung Metro Manila Film Festival. So what happened was, they contacted me in early 2005. Yeah, it was early 2005 na kinontak ako. And then, we had an initial meeting, and then after that, hindi nila ako kinausap for a year. And then, pagdating ng early 2006, di lumabas na yung musical. Kasi lumabas ang musical ng February 2006. Bigla ako kinontak ng Regal. And they wanted the movie to come out in December 2006. So, you knew parang in less than a year, you're gonna do a superhero special effects extravaganza. Yon. Pero ginawa nila. So, parang it's mabilisan.
Tagal pa yun.
Ano ba? Kasi
Some do it in
7 days.
Meaning from pre-prod to, from scripting to post-production.
Yeah.
The MMFF films right now, some are shooting November.
Oh my God!
The Walan Forever is still being shot. Hasn't started as of early November. So mid-November, ngayon pa lang shoot. So some, yun nga, if you naman no special effects.
Okay, oo.
But a lot of the movies right now are being done according to very, very short-term stuff. Yeah. That's why you're lucky na you had a year.
But overall, were you satisfied? Were you satisfied with the adaptations?
I'm sorry.
Were you satisfied with the adaptations of what you were, of your initial output?
Okay, yun parang tinatanong sa akin yan. How did you like the film? Ganyan. Because a lot of people did not like the film, ganyan, because they had this expectation. Yun nga, when I came into Regal, I already had that mindset na this is Regal. This is Mother Lee. And, yun nga, parang in the 80s, yun, I would watch Regal films. Ganon. I would watch. Yung fan ako ng Regal, Viva, yung mga ganon. So, in terms of the tone, di ba, say, well, up to a certain time, you say ko. So you're aware of the tone, you're aware of the atmosphere of the films, especially when it comes to the comedies nila, ganyan. And in a way, Jaja fit because it had the drama, the comedy, the horror, ganyan. So it had Regal film plastered all over it. Pero yun nga, when Mother Lily was asking me who would I want the director to be, who was my favorite director, I told her that my favorite director was Chito Ronyo. But Chito Ronyo was doing other things, so hindi siya pwede, ganyan. Yun, and then one day, yun nga, pinitch sa akin si Joel Lamangan. Ngayon, I've watched Joel Lamangan films before. I like him with his dramas. I'm not too keen with him when it comes to his other genre. Ganyan. So yun sinabi ko kay Mother Lily, ganyan. And then, eventually, nag-set a meeting between me and Joe Lamangan. So, parang, okay, so we had this discussion, ganyan. And then, and if there's one thing that I learned from him, sinabi niya, parang ultimately, sabi ni Joe Lamangan, it all boils down to taste. Diba? It all boils down to taste. Take it however you want it, eventually it all boils down to taste. Diba? Look at Blade Runner. When Blade Runner first came out, it was like, and it was didn't make very much money, but then eventually, parang it was like the film that,
cult classic.
Diba? Yung ganun parang it was like the film that was too early for its time. You could say that. Ngayon, when the film came out for Jaja, for me, I liked characterization. Joel Lamangan was trained in theater, so he knows character motivation, he knows those things. And yung ginawa niya for the film, for character, I'm fine, I'm great. Yung problema ko lang naman sa film was yung nirush ang post-prod. Nahalata, ganyan. But then again, lo and behold, nung nagkaroon ng bootlegs internationally, yun, mabalitaan ko mga bootlegs, ganyan, people were reviewing the film based on the Thai translated bootlegs na kita nila sa Brooklyn, yung mga ganong tipo, ganyan. The foreigners loved it.
Parang you got it made, tinitira ka na.
Diba? Pero yun na, yung sinasabi na, the weird thing is, yung parang this is the movie that that's so bad you love it. Diba? And yung parang, there's one reviewer who reviews who reviews Asian films. He said, if Pedro Almodovar was given Wonder Woman, this would be it. Yung ganon. So parang, yun nga, and then it brings me back to what Joel Amaman says. It all boils down to taste. Na for those who read the comic book, they didn't like the movie. For those who didn't read the comic book, they appreciated the movie. For those who are not of the Filipino culture abroad, they love the movie. So, who's right? We don't know. So, ang responsibility ngayon natin is, yun nga, as a creator, like what Paolo said, parang, if I have a book, we have a book, and someone wants to adapt it, let go.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You don't really know.
But you have to be true to yourself.
Yun, oo.
To contextualize also the Jasha, and if it's the MMFF, that's the one time in every year where the film industry can earn. Kasi when kalaban nila piracy, kalaban nila yung Hollywood films, and it can't compete.
Yeah.
We cannot compete. You cannot compete Julia Roberts or Julian Santos. Diba? I mean, if you had 200 pesos, where can you mo ibibigay, diba? Avengers or sino ba yung ano ngayon?
Or JG.
Yeah, or that, diba? So, that's that one time in a year, in the whole year, that they have the chance to earn money for the rest of the whole year. So all of the movies that these 5 families produce, 5 na lang, or 4, or baka 3 families produce for the year, they earn it in the MMFF. That's why when I hear discussions about Cinemalaya versus MMFF, nawawala yung context kasi that's what feeds the actual industry. No matter how poorly done or how much we don't like the output because we're not the audience for that. Sad to say, we're not the audience of those. Let's say the General Luna when it had so much viral posts about it has to earn 150 million so that it can break even. But what is the reality of that? That 150 million, 75 million goes to SM. So can you imagine? It's not, but of course it's not being said, because if that was told, would you watch it extra 4 or 5 times? Because there are people who did watch it because they wanted to help. But the reality is, if it's a local film, a big chunk of your ticket goes to SM. That's why the producers produce these types of kabit films, because it's a sure hit. That's why producers can't produce something that is experimental or avant-garde or something that is developed or is different. That's why we're still stuck with romantic comedies and horror. It's because
safe the formula na.
Because it costs so much to produce a film and the earnings are so little. So unlike comic books, if you have one print run which earns X amount, you can earn that back in a year or less for that X amount. And then you get royalty. I mean, you earn at least bumabalik. Diba? In indie films, hindi nababalik yung cash. So it's really silly. What you do is but yun, to contextualize also on why what gets produced also is because it had the draw that the producer thinks that Joshua Saturna can be their manok to earn versus let's say they have that's why there's always a big Soto movie kasi siya yung malakas, siya yung Itbulaga, subok na, diba? So you always have the kabit, linalaspag nila yan, and they have people to research on how long does this theme still, let's say, I think the Etiquette is the last of all of our mistress movies, diba? So because they could but sometimes you don't know what will sell. I mean, at the end of the day, you never know what will sell. Even if you have a formula, an award-winning cast, a very powerful director, a very big idea concept, pero bumagyo. It doesn't sell. So that's it's always a high risk factor.
Final question. Final question, anyone?
Siguro the question here is, when we're talking adaptation, is like film the ultimate expression or adaptation, or are you like open, or you hope it will be adapted into
Hollywood.
But it's still film. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Hollywood, pero parang yung medium mo, it's still the same. Is film the ultimate medium for you in terms of adaptation, or are there other mediums na you hope?
Is film the ultimate? I think. Well, personally, adaptation is nice to have.
Okay.
It's nice to have because it gets word out about your book. Kaya lang, parang at the end of the day, parang kahit ang hinihingi lang namin, bumenta lang talaga yung comics namin para makabuhay naman kami. Para makakain naman kami. Kasi ang hirap-hirap. Pero yun kumbaga, I think to answer the question, these adaptations are bonuses, but they're not requirements. Kasi even if Leading Lady became a musical and the earnings I got was decent naman, parang ini-insist ko pa rin na pwede bang ilagay yung libro ko dun sa venue. Parang at the end of the day, it's still about the book. Parang kailangan i-push yan. Yun, and then and what happens is people who are outside this space, who don't go to Komikon, who are not familiar with Judge or 13 or Buhay Habang Buhay or all these other things, yung parang they get to see that there is something going on in our space.
Well, for me, it's really, I'm more of, I've always been a storyteller. So regardless of if it's fiction, graphic novel, film, animation, advertising, as long as the message gets across, I'm very happy with that. Of course, there's some mediums that are easier to access, and the good thing about comic books is that once it's published, it's a published piece that is meant to stay until there are copies. So as long as the message gets across, as long as the literature gets across, or the movie gets across, I think it's always about being heard. Your story is being heard for me, and it's not really about being big or being. Then I would go to Star Cinema. I would have offered
Okay.
if they will get it.
Subjective answer yan, Carl.
Okay.
So yun yung sagot niya.
For me, that's why for me it's about the story and not about the author. For me, meaning it's not about I'm like this and I did this. For me, it's really about the stories and about the books that come out or the films that come out. So hopefully we get to do a good job, and somebody likes your work, and then to me it's the best reward. Of course, if you can earn a bit, why not?
A lot.
A lot.
Okay, so on that note, I'd like to thank Carlo Vergara and we thank you with these certificates of appreciation for attending our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Salamat.